Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting. My name is Councillor Anne Dorian, Leader of the Council and Chairman of the Cabinet. Deputy Leader and Vice Chairman of the Cabinet is to my left, Councillor Dale Broughton. And before we start, may I remind everyone in attendance that this evening's meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. I'd also like to take the opportunity to welcome Councillor Chris Bruce from South Holland District Council, and thank you, Councillor Bruce, for making the effort to be with us this evening to present your report on the scrutiny of the partnership. Thank you. You're most welcome. Before we move on to the preliminary items, well, I don't need those preliminary items because there's no members of the public here. So part one of the agenda, are there any apologies?
No apologies, Madam Chairman.
Okay, and do I have members' permission to sign the minutes of the previous meeting from the 13th of December? Thank you. Does any member wish to declare any interest in respect of any items on the agenda? No. And are there any questions from members of the public which have been received 2 clear working days prior to the meeting?
No questions, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Now move to part 2 of the agenda items, and item number 1 is recommendations from overview and scrutiny. Are there any recommendations from overview and scrutiny, Karen?
There are none for this meeting, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
And item 2 is that, are there any recommendations from the Boston Town Area Committee, Karen?
There are none for this meeting, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
So on to item 3 on the agenda, and this item is the budget overview from 24-25 to 28-29, including our budget consultation. This starts on page 9 of the agenda pack. So I'd like to invite Councillor Ghosh to present this item and propose the recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to present this draft 24-25 budget for the consultation. The draft budget for 24-25 has been prepared in detail with the information available at this point in time and will continue to be refined over the coming weeks. The creation of next year's budget has been extremely challenging. The budget is set within a background of unprecedented inflationary pressures and significant changes in resident, customer, and business needs. The key budget pressures in page 10 includes pension contributions, which will be 23.6% in 24-25, with an additional lump sum amount payable towards the deficit on the pension scheme. Pay award at 3.5% for 24-25. Increased demand for homelessness support and its associated subsidy implications. External audit fees, which is 160% increase from 23-24 to 24-25. PSPS contract increase 20% from 23-24 to 24-25. And last but not least, increase internal drainage board levy. Draft settlement detailing the allocations of revenue support grant, rural services delivery grant, new homes bonus, and the funding guarantee was received from government on the 18th of December 23 and has been built into the budgets. The final settlement figures will be received in February and budgets will be updated to reflect any changes. Council tax, page 11. Government restricts the increase in council tax to a maximum of 3% of £5. For BBC, the increase equates to 3%, resulting in an increase of 7.2 for Band D properties, £70.2. This will generate an additional 146,000 for the authority. For business rates, we are waiting for the NNDR1 to be completed at the end of January, and we will then update the budget to include the 24-25 figures. IDBs continue to be an ever-increasing pressure with an estimated increase for 24-25 of £335,000. The council is in ongoing discussions with DEFRA, and a specialist interest group has been set up to lobby the government on the IDB increases. The capital program is in draft and is still subject to some final amendments, including the new towns fund allocation of £20 million. There is ongoing investment through the use of grant funding from Towns Fund, UKSPF, and Levelling Up funding and continuing investment for the disabled facilities grant, investment in IT and vehicle replacements. Reserves, page 13. General fund specific reserves are budgeted to reduce by £70,000 in 24-25. This is predominantly to fund the capital program, which has seen slippage on some of the larger schemes. This figure will be adjusted once the outturn for 23-24 is known. Some of the important points to know for 24-25. Net tentative retained business rates income is 5.1 million. Total council tax to be collected, including BTAC, is 5.155 million. The tax base for 24-25 has decreased by 0.55% and increased by 1.5% per annum thereafter. Is going to be. This is based on the latest projected house building trajectory. New homes bonus allocations were announced as part of the local government finance settlements for 24-25. The government has added a year of additional grant, and the assumption currently is that this will continue or be replaced with another similar scheme. So the net budget for the year 24-25 is 12.071 million. Balancing the budget. Currently, there is a gap in balancing the budget. To identify solutions to the gap, work is being undertaken both in the short and the medium term. Detailed transformation, savings, and efficiencies programs are being developed and will be brought forward for considerations. The potential short and medium term areas to be considered as part of the budget setting process are mentioned in page 14, section 8. Madam Chairman, I therefore propose that Cabinet approve the recommendations as set out in the report. The recommendations are: approve the draft budget and medium-term financial strategy for the period 24-25 to 28-29 for consultation. Notes the intention to seek alignment of constitutional financial limits across the partnership as part of the budget setting process, and notes the proposal for the final budget and all future years to include an annual RPI uplift to be included for all fees and charges wherever it's applicable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ghosh. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Baxter seconded. Thank you for that. And now we'll take some questions. Who would like to start? Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, as mentioned at the council meeting last night, it's very good to read a report like this that's very easy to understand, very visible and quite logical. So as I read through the report, I think the classic quote is it's a challenging budget, especially during this economic climate. I was pleased as well to read about the pressure as regards the internal drainage levy meetings with the department concerned, and that we've joined with other councils as well to press that forward, because that makes a considerable difference to obviously our budget. I know several people talk about then that they'll hear that Band D properties, it's £7.20 an increase, and obviously start to panic. But I put that down then, that's only 13.8p per week. So several of our residents has mentioned, well, it's okay putting the council tax up. What about the services? Will they be reduced? So I was pleased to read on page 23. This means that the council can continue to provide services whilst also supporting its overall objectives, and that we will continue to strive to be as efficient as possible in all its work, building on the partnership with its partners, whilst ensuring it maximises the income it receives. So I think that's very important that we pass that on to our residents. The things, well, that obviously we talk about all the time are efficiency savings. So I looked at the targets on page 42, a considerable challenge, but I know it's a key challenge to us as at the Cabinet and all our officers. The budget efficiency requirement annually for 2024-25 is 974,000, but it does jump up then to the 2,000s for the following years. So as it mentions there, this will be recognised as a key challenge to the council that will require both political and cultural direction to make sure it's met. And I think with them, within our officers and within the Cabinet, we have people who would look at that. The other thing that pleased me as well is...
Councillor Baxter, could I just stop you there? On that table 14, it's going to go up to 2.2 million.
Oh, yeah.
Just in case anyone's listening who's not reading the report, not 2,000.
Wish I'd stuck with the original figure, really. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, so sorry. So I was pleased as well to read page 43, something as a cabinet and within our council, we're already promoting projects and aiming to drive commercial opportunities and also place the customer at the centre of everything we do and achieve as much as possible through greater collaboration. And it mentions some of the wonderful projects that we're taking forward as part of this budget. So I agree with the recommendations and thank you for all the hard work. Obviously, there's some work to do still, but I feel confident we'll be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Anyone else? Councillor Creswell and then Councillor Sharp. Emma.
Sorry, I just wanted to comment on page 13, 6.2. It's always nice when we're looking at the capital programme for the next few years and we talk such a lot about the investment and growth and what we want to happen in our area and in our town. And I just like to see that the main areas of that continued investment are what we've said we would do. Disabled facilities, looking at those, the IT systems, vehicle replacement. I know Councillor Butler will be delighted to see that. And to support grant funding bids, which I think is particularly important for some of our charities and some of our communities, community things that happen, to allow them and support them for those further grant funding. So I'm really pleased to see those four there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Creswell. Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For page 11 under section 2.2, and I know I do talk about the external audit fees before, but seeing 160% increase made me stop breathing. Is there anything? Do they go out to tender? Is that the final fee? Can they come back and ask for any more money? Because I think that's been happened before. Is that shared across the partnerships? That's just to us. So yeah, is there a tender coming up soon, or are we stuck in a contract and they can just ask us for more money year on year, and we're in a similar situation as with the IDBs?
Okay, it's a fair question. Christine, would you like to take that?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So on the external audit fees, they've recently been subject to tender. I think it's fair to say that previously the audit fees were probably too low. And the audit market has been no different from other markets where they've struggled to recruit and costs have gone up. And I think what you are seeing is a combination of events, both a level of audit increasing and also fees resetting to perhaps a more reasonable level. And then on top of that, costs of recruitment and retention of qualified staff to undertake those audits. So it's a bit of a perfect storm for audit fees. Nevertheless, it's not that we won't look at it. When that contract comes up again in a few years, we will revisit it again. What I would say is they can charge us additional fees. So if they have to do an exceptionally high level of work for some reason, they can come back with additional fee requests. But at that level, I would hope they have no need to do so.
Thank you, Christine. Anyone else? Okay, I'd just like to pick up on something Councillor Baxter said, which was in relation to page 23, 1.5. And I know, Councillor Baxter, that you mentioned you were pleased to read that the council could continue to provide services whilst also supporting its overall objectives, which is true. However, I just need to caution that the level of services could well be impacted by the budget gap. I'm not saying it is going to be impacted, but clearly, if we want to manage the budget gap in a way that prevents redundancies wherever possible, that's the last thing we want for our staffing. The only other place we can look for efficiencies is in how we deliver our services, really. So I just don't. I know that's disappointing to hear, and it will be for the public, but we must be very straight with our residents that that's the position that we're in. And I think in the context of where we're at, there's no denying that we've had 13 years of austerity with a Conservative government. There were other ways to solve the national debt. It didn't have to be that way, but that's the way they chose to go. And then when you lump in staff wage increases, which I don't begrudge, because they've been 0 to 1% for several years. You add in utility costs and inflationary pressures along with the IDBs. We're looking at a situation that is created almost a perfect storm of budgetary pressures. So I thank Councillor Gosh for your hard work. I know that you dedicate a huge amount of hours to this over and above your day job, so thank you for that. And thank you also to Christina 151 and Louise for the work that you do on our budget. So with that, did you want to come in there, Councillor Gosh?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, absolutely. I agree to your point about the services. We still have to, get that efficiencies to be successful. But as said, cutting down the services is not even in the option. So we are trying hard to, getting those efficiencies. And absolutely, it's a remarkable job for Louise and Christine. They really did good job. Thank you.
Thank you. I know if anyone can do it, your team can do it. So with that, we will move to the vote then. All those in favour? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much. And now it's item 4. We have the Local Council Tax Support Scheme, which starts on page 47 of your agenda packs. Councillor Gosh, would you like to propose this and move the recommendation, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The local authorities have been required to develop local council tax support schemes to support low-income households since 2013. Prior to this, support was based on a national council tax benefit scheme delivered by local authorities, but based on rules determined by central government. Regulations provide councils with flexibility to set up their own local arrangements. However, government continues to prescribe the scheme for pensioners who can receive up to 100% support. This paper focuses on the scheme for working age claimants. Each year, the council must consider whether to revise its scheme and consult on its proposals. Schemes cannot be changed mid-year. Section 1.3 of the report reminds Cabinet that this council provides up to 75% support for working age households, leaving at least 25% of the annual council tax bill to be paid. The scheme continues to protect war, disablement pensioners and war widows, providing up to 100% support. Working age scheme expenditure in 23-24 is estimated to be 1,925,000 pounds, 1.9 million, I must say that. The current working age caseload is 2,530. The table shown in the financial section of this report provide a full breakdown of caseload and expenditure along with the cost to Boston Borough Council. The review of the scheme for 24-25 is in the backdrop of the economic challenges and the uncertainty and difficulties households are experiencing. The importance of providing consistency and continuity have been priority considerations for the next financial year. The council may see an increase in demand for council tax support, and as referenced at section 2.2 in the report, it is important that the scheme is considered alongside wider challenges faced by local authorities with the need to strike a balance between providing a fair and affordable scheme which provides support to those most in need and the cost of the scheme to all of Boston Borough Council residents. Cabinet members are reminded at section 2.3 to 2.5 in the report that other support is available to households, including 113,325,000 pounds in 23-24 to provide an additional £25 reduction in council tax bills for those in receipt of council tax support, with the balance used to support economically vulnerable households with further reductions in bills administered under the council's discretionary council tax reduction policy. In addition, the council provides a range of information on its website, signposting households to other available support services. Section 4 of the report recognizes care leavers as one of the most vulnerable groups in society. Whilst the council has provided 100% reduction in council tax liability for this group between 18 to 21 years, it is timely to recognize the duty placed on local authorities to provide support for care leavers up to age 25. It is therefore proposed that to simplify the scheme for care leavers and to demonstrate this council's commitment to support this vulnerable group that a specific class for care leavers aged 18 up to 25th birthday should be included in the council tax support scheme from 24-25. Section 4.4 of the report advises that the current number of care leavers in the borough is 7 and the current cost of support is £4,425. Inclusion of a specific class for care leavers would simplify the process for care leavers. The full cost within council tax support expenditure would be administered as part of the collection fund, with the cost to this council being around 1,145,000, which is 13%. Section 5 of the report sets out the reasons why a fundamental review of the scheme is now timely. Boston's scheme is now heading into its 12th year, and other than some adjustments over the years, it remains largely based on the previous means tested council tax benefit scheme. Independent observations and the benchmarking have been undertaken as part of this year's review, and this has provided a strong endorsement of the need to undertake a fundamental review. So moving to the 3 recommendations, Cabinet is asked to recommend that full council approves the council tax support scheme for 24-25 as follows. Continuation of the current council tax support scheme, including operating in line with DWP's annual update of allowances and premiums for 24-25. The introduction of a class for care leavers up to the age of 25 within the scheme. That Cabinet delegates approval for development of the 24-25 final scheme policy to the Section 151 officer in consultation with myself, including administrative and minor changes. Cabinet notes that the fundamental review will be undertaken during 24-25. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well done, Councillor Ghosh. Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Creswell has seconded, and I'll now take any questions. Councillor Baxter.
I've got my thinking head on tonight. Yeah, thank you for the report, very comprehensive. The first thing I thought as I read through, isn't it brilliant that we consult people and take that into account? The fact that this isn't a national scheme, we can devise this and do this locally. And obviously it costs us money because it gets money knocked off the council tax bills. The first thing I thought was, for the people hearing what we're saying now, is how do they get to know about it? So I was pleased to read then we're going to publicise it on websites. But the thing that gave me the greatest pleasure was the mention of those in need and vulnerable people, that we take this into account. The class for the care leavers, and also page 48, it mentions then we've uprated the scheme in line with the DWP provisions, something we didn't have to, but also as well, I know some local authorities take into account war disablement pensions, war widows and war widows pensions. In this scheme, we give veterans a benefit of those not being taken into account. So I look at this and think, obviously, I know it's going to be reviewed, but I think this will help people during the economic climate to meet and pay their council tax bill. So I support the recommendation and thank the people for being involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Well done. Councillor Broughton, then Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to again compliment Councillor Ghosh on the report. My point is on page 56. It's just a view, really. The consultation method, we've emailed 54 different groups, as well as also going on the BBC website, yet you only had 35 responses, as it says in point 5. Perhaps this method isn't the best way to consult, and maybe with the figures being very low, and obviously we could potentially look at doing a different way of consulting going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Broughton. Yes, indeed, you mentioned this point before. I took it into consideration. We are definitely going to look into that. Thank you.
Councillor Butler, Callum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Firstly, again, I want to congratulate Councillor Ghosh. I think this is obviously brilliant. I'm pleased to see that we're looking at uplifting the care leavers from 21 to 25, as they are some of the most vulnerable people in society. How do we allocate the funding? So how do we know who's eligible for the council tax reduction scheme?
Do you mean just for care leavers?
No, in general.
In general.
What do we take into account?
Oh, okay. All right. I'll hand that over to Mr. Wagstaff.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There's an application process, so people can make applications to us. We've also changed the scheme last year to make it so that as people claim universal credit, that is automatically treated as a claim for council tax support, so that it's publicised quite widely. But the scheme was changed last year to make it less restrictive, which has actually increased the number of people we've got on council tax support, because an application at the job centre for one benefit becomes an application for this as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's very reassuring. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. Well done. Anyone else? I just endorse what people have said about the care leavers. That's one of my passions, and the Local Government Association, new chairman, I think I mentioned before, is one of his passions too. So I'm pleased that we've risen to meet that challenge and help these young people as far as humanly possible. And I think this fundamental review is way past due. So I was quite shocked when I read that it hadn't been done for 12 years. You'll know that Councillor Gleeson mentioned this very same topic at full council last night. I know that he's very keen to see new and innovative and creative ways that we could support our residents more than they're supported at the moment. The question I have really, and I don't know if you have an answer, Christine, is how long do you think this review will take? What form will it take? And when would you expect it to come back to Cabinet?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I'll give an initial response and then I'll ask Bob if he can just give an update on where we are with some of the specifics. So at the moment, going through the process of procuring some external support, and what that will do is that will help us model different schemes. So different schemes might have different impacts at different people applying. So we want to do it with care and take some time over it. So that's the process where we're at currently. That funding has been allocated to it and that work is underway. I'm not quite sure at what stage we are at this point. Just to feed to Bob, we will need to come back to you informally initially just to work through some of those options and how they look for you to consider, and then we'll take it through the normal decision making process.
Thank you, Bob. Would you want to come in now?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The procurement process is likely to take us into February and March. There's a then expectation that we'll be providing data through to the successful procured company through April, and they will be modelling our data through the early part of the summer, coming back to us with recommendations in the middle of summer so that we can compile them into a consultation for next year's council tax support scheme around about August, September time.
That's smashing. And then hopefully if we decide to make changes, we'll be in very good time. It sounds like you're way ahead of the curve. We'll be in very good time for next year's budget. Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. Well done. Okay, with that, if there's no more questions, we'll go to the vote. Did you want to say anything else, Councillor Ghosh? No. Okay, we'll go to the vote then. All those in favour? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Well done. So we'll now go to item 5 on the agenda. And thank you for waiting patiently, Councillor Bruce. And this is the joint annual scrutiny of the South and East Lincolnshire Councils partnership, which for those of you who may be watching online and you aren't quite sure what that is, that's a partnership between this council, Boston Borough, with East Lindsey District Council and South Holland District Council. The item starts on page 61 of the agenda pack. And Councillor Lewis, would you like to present?
Is that working? Yeah. Well, thank you very much indeed. And it's a pleasure to come here again. And I have the advantage at the moment, as I'm on the PSPS board, of visiting Boston more often. And I never go inside a football ground without remembering one of the 2 luckiest things that ever happened to me in my life was when I, first year student at Durham University, I won a ticket in a draw, and it was a ticket to attend the World Cup final in 1966, and I was there. And I don't think it's going to happen again very soon, but there we are. If there are any grammatical errors in what I've said here, I'll blame my English teacher, who is long since dead. And some of you may have read a book. He wrote the book long before he knew me, I hasten to add. The Nobel laureate who wrote Lord of the Flies, William Golding, was my English teacher. I think I've got to start by thanking everybody, particularly my Vice Chairman Fiona from East Lindsey, the members of the task group, particularly James and Rebecca for keeping us on track. And I'd like to thank all the directors, leaders, and members of staff who so frankly and openly answered the questions that we put to them in advance and any questions we put to them when we met them all. A lot of it was online. And I have to say there was a great deal of unanimity in answers we were getting. And this is why my real comment was on page 66. Thus far, so good and well done, but much still needs to be done to make the partnership even more effective and successful. I'd only make one or two comments. And one thing that you mentioned earlier is about the special interest group of the LGA concerning drainage board precepts, which bizarrely, and I think it was when the Secretary of State was Eric Pickles, bizarrely, everything else we collect on behalf of people is to make it more efficient, as you know, rather than sending loads and loads of bills from different places. And we think with the special interest group, which now has 25 people on board, I spoke to the chairman on Friday, who, as you know, is Paul Redgate from South Holland, and they're very optimistic that they're getting somewhere with it. And the current Secretary of State, who is responsible ultimately for it, of course, happens to live 3 miles from me. Indeed, he is so on the edge of that his house is in Lincolnshire, but his southern boundary forms the boundary of East Anglia and Cambridgeshire. So we hope, being so close and in the area affected, that he will listen. I think very optimistic on that one. I think I commend the recommendations to you, and I did present them to the your scrutiny committee. And I think that one other thing that we briefly mentioned in here, which I think is quite important, is that new councillors, and we've got a great number of them across the partnership, new councillors were inundated with a huge amount of training and familiarisation training when they were elected in May. And we feel, certainly, there was a general feeling that regular updates and training on the partnership and relationship, PSPS and everything else are quite important to do. And we're thinking it's something we probably ought to do for everybody annually because of where we're coming from. I think the other thing that so impressed us was the paper, which was the progress and delivery update, because there's a lot of stuff in there that gives us a very clear view of how we're moving forward. And I think other than that, and any questions anybody's got, I'm happy to commend it to you and say what a very, very interesting role it was to chair this one, where there was so much unanimity amongst the 3 councils in the partnership of that we've got a long way to go, but we're heading in the right direction. I think that's a fair thing, if I may say, Madam Chairman. And so can I commend it to you and hope we all move forward. And I think we should carry on not contemplating our neighbours, but actually seeing how we move forward. And one of the key things is here, when we do want something to happen, rather than just saying we want it to happen, is having a date when we'd like it to happen by. And that's something we were very, very strong on. And I know that will appeal to you, I know. I think that's about it for the moment, if I may.
Thank you. That was a lovely introduction, Councillor Brewis. Thank you for sharing your anecdotes with us. They're very interesting. A life well lived, I'm sure. Karen, can I just double check with you that Councillor Brewis can propose the recommendations? He can. So they're proposed. Yeah.
Obviously quite happy to do that. Yeah.
And a seconder, please. Councillor Baxter has seconded them. Now, does anyone have any questions for Councillor Brewis this evening? Callum?
Not so much a question as just an observation. As portfolio holder for environment, I'm very pleased that in Appendix C on page 71, what do you think are the key areas of focus? What do you think the key areas of focus should be for the partnership in the year ahead? 4th one down, waste services, fly tipping, Environment Act, refuse collection and cleanliness. I'm very pleased to see that in there. So thank you.
on that one, it's very dear to my heart as well. And where we end up with around the districts with little estates with so-called refuse collection points, they're becoming very popular fly tipping points, and I think it is quite a serious problem, and they seem to do it in the early hours when no one's looking. Surprise, surprise.
We've got a very active community within our residents, councillor Brewis, who remind us on a daily basis of where fly tippings occurred. And they do serve a really useful purpose, I have to say, because I think that the needle has moved on the dial where now our residents don't just complain about it, they actually report it. And I think that's a really important part of their community responsibility, that it's as quick to report as it is to post on Facebook. So I'm grateful to those residents that do that. Any other questions? Councillor Baxter, then Councillor Ghosh. John.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, Councillor Brewis and the team, thank you. I found this a fantastic, interesting read. As I went through that, I was really pleased that you'd consulted various parties within the partnership, not least councillors who came up with constructive comments, as Councillor Butler mentioned. So I was just going to, as I went through, there were lots of ideas and comments made. Can I just ask, first of all, Councillor Brewis, how you prioritise the recommendations? There were so many comments made. So will you be looking at, well, you made recommendations on page 68 to do with ICT, communication, capacity, alignment. So the other things that were mentioned, say, for example, some staff felt that if you worked at Boston, you weren't treated the same as, say, South Holland or East Lindsey. So will you be picking those things up later, please?
We were very conscious of this because it was mentioned by several people, and I don't think we've lost sight of it. And it's not suggesting that this is a one-off, only one. I think we're still hoping and intending that there'll be an annual look at it and the progress to see where we're going. And that, to me, is something that we have to address, because the one advantage we've got at the moment, I think, is a lot of staff who are very positive, and who members of the public who contact them are very pleased to meet with them. And we don't want anything that actually upsets the apple cart on that. So it was mentioned by a number of people. So yes, we're very conscious of it.
Thank you. The other thing I was going to mention as well, it made me feel very proud, dare I say, from May onwards, the achievements of the partnership and everything, they're full pages. So I think we should be proud within the partnership and within our council here that we turn up every day, but forget some of the things that are happening in our achievements. So thank you.
I think when we received that, we were also very much impressed. And I think as to how we drew up our things, and this is why I particularly mentioned very grateful to James and Rebecca. And we did have a long meeting with my vice chair, in which we met in Horncastle to come up with them. And we'd got notes on the whole lot, and we hope these have reflected what everybody told us and where we're going to go forward. That was the whole idea. We're trying to reflect what we were told by everybody who met us. And I'm grateful to everybody in Boston who answered our questions, including you.
Okay, Councillor Ghosh, Sandy.
Yeah, it's no, thanks, Madam Chair. It's really a statement. One of the main important reason of partnership is financial resilience, and we have a showcase of this mobile contract. You know, one of the success story we can share that it's working well. So I'm really positive about it. The second point is regarding the ICT. I requested IT to put the digital strategy on the portal, so it's available now. It's in sclcp.co.uk. So where we can see the vision, the strategy, the success stories, all in the web portal now. So yeah, just to inform. Thank you.
And one word to do with IT, and that was, it comes under the almost under alignment with that it's going to be to all our advantages the more our systems can speak with each other.
I had a quick question, which was around the alignment of pay scales and T's and C's. I think that was a really important issue you picked up there, Councillor Bruce. And for me, one of the issues that I was very passionate about was that our staff here at Boston didn't get paid for the first 2 days sick leave. Now, I know the alignment of T's and C's is one major piece of work. However, Rob did tell me that he felt he could move that forward by February. I'm aware you might not have the answer, Councillor Bruce, but I wonder if anyone here in the officer section has an answer. Do we know if our staff will all be aligned in that vein? No? If you don't know, you don't know, it's fine. No. Okay, so I'll pick that up, but I do think that was really important that, you know, especially for our staff to feel that, you know, they didn't have to take annual leave because they were poorly, whereas somebody sitting in the next office could go off sick and not affect their annual leave quota. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's clearly seen as a priority area of work. And I know that there are a number of different sort of facets in terms of that review regarding T's and C's. Obviously, we don't have the programme tonight, but we will share that with Cabinet and bring it forward. Okay.
Thank you very much. Well, with that said, the report's been moved and seconded. If everyone spoke, do you want to speak? Oh, it's done. It's seconded, yeah. So we'll move to the vote now. All those in favour? That's clearly carried. So thank you very much again, Councillor Bruce. You've been very welcome here this evening.
I'm finding this very interesting. Can I stay and hear what's going on? Yes. Thank you.
Yes, of course. We've only got one more agenda item. So, oh, sorry, two. Yeah, I'm wishing my life away. So we move now to item 6, which is the South and East Lincolnshire Council's Partnership Customer Experience Strategy, which starts on page 91 of your agenda pack. Councillor Broughton, would you like to present and propose the recommendations?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to present the South and East Lincolnshire Council's Partnership Customer Experience Strategy Report. Firstly, I'd like to thank Emily Spicer and Roxanne Warwick for their hard work in helping along with this. This report seeks Cabinet approval to adopt this strategy to commit to supporting the delivery of the vision, principles and approach to customer experience across council services. As a council and as a partnership, we're committed to providing a customer experience that is simple, effective and to ensure people can access the many services that are offered. One of the key principles to achieving this vision is to understand our communities and customers and how their changing needs inform the way we provide our services. The report presents South and East Lincolnshire Council's Partnership's first customer experience strategy, which sets out the council's shared approach for customer experience, working together to offer a clear and consistent experience. This document is all about providing a more consistent way for our customers to access services, get advice and information in the way that they want to. It's been presented to and discussed by members of the Overview and Scrutiny, Corporate and Community Committee, who have helped shape and develop this document, and I thank them for their input, as well as leaders at an early stage. The strategy sets out 3 key outcomes we are seeking over the next 4 years to achieve this. An organisational culture that is people-focused, a simple, effective and positive customer experience, support that meets our customers' needs. Success will be monitored through the South and East Lincolnshire Council's Partnership Customer Experience Board, who will have oversight of the strategy and associated action plan. Madam Chair, I therefore propose the Cabinet approve the recommendation as set out in the report. The recommendation being to adopt the South and East Lincolnshire Council's Partnership Customer Experience Strategy, that's a mouthful, and to commit to supporting the delivery of the vision, principles and approach to customer experience across council services. Thank you.
Thank you, well done. Did you all hear that? Do we have a second? Councillor Butler, thank you, Carl. Right, now I'll open it to any questions. Oh, Councillor Baxter.
I'll speak quietly. Yeah, as I read this report, I thought this is really good because obviously it's a strategy. We're the voice and face of our councils, aren't we? And obviously we all know sometimes when we phone people up, the customer experience isn't good. So I was pleased to read about the customer experience board and governance. I did raise a query the last time we were chatting about this, about how a customer feeds back how we're doing. So obviously we do that through key performance indicators and questionnaires. But for our friends who are watching as well, on page 8 of the actual strategy, it highlighted to me, we often don't think and reflect on the numbers game. So did you realise there's 11 million refuse and recycling collections? 125,000 tonnes of household waste. It lists here as well the number of people who visit our web pages. So it makes you realise obviously how important our services are to the person on the street. So as I read this as well, I know the strategy is going to be passed to agencies and various people. So I agree with the recommendations and thank people for their hard work on this.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Councillor Butler, Callum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 14-15, outcome 3, support that meets our customers' needs. To create the environment, facilities and advocacy to support those that need it most. How will this be achieved? The third bullet point, I'm very pleased to see, making face-to-face services available for those who need it. In a world that's going digital, I think it's vitally important that we still provide a face-to-face service, especially for our elderly members of the community. So I'm really pleased to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to respond to that?
I'd just like to say, Callum, actually, obviously face-to-face is important, but you said about older residents. More older residents now are turning to digital and emails and that, as well, as I'm sure Emily or Roxanne might have the numbers, but it's definitely increasing as we're seeing. So perhaps older people are getting more tech savvy now.
Councillor Creswell, Emma.
And just an observation on that same page, on that page 14-15, talking about face-to-face services, I think it's also really important and nice to read that how it will be received is to recognise ward councillors' role as the voice of the community, because I think as a new council, we have really engaged with our community and really raised our residents' concerns, and I think that it's really nice to know that, you know, we're raising them on our residents' behalf, and that's being taken into account. It's really important. Thank you.
I would endorse what you've just said. I think our new council's taken casework to a new level. They are, as you say, really engaged with their community and responsive and reactive to their residents, and that's incredibly important. So thank you for mentioning that. Anyone else? No. Okay. Well, if everyone's spoken, we'll go to the vote with that one then. All those in favour? Clearly carried. Thank you very much. Well done, Dale. And Emily and Roxanne, thank you. Excuse me. Next this evening is the external serious violence funding, and this starts on page 109 of your pack, and it's my portfolio, so I'll present it. So this report is recommending that we accept grant funding from the Police and Crime Commissioner in accordance with 5 successful funding bid applications that officers submitted on our behalf alongside colleagues in Lincolnshire Police. These bids went to the Lincolnshire Police Serious Violence Fund. By accepting the recommendation, we will bring into the borough £305,881. I didn't see that right at all, did I? £305,881 of extra grant funding between now and the 31st of March 2025 to deliver 5 fully funded projects detailed from section 3 of the report in front of you. This funding consists of £160,000 in capital funding and just shy of £146,000 in revenue funding. And I will now talk through each area in turn, beginning with the projects associated with the capital funding element of this funding. So through the capital funding, it's proposed that we have 5 new CCTV cameras to be installed to allow further CCTV coverage within Central Park, Marketplace and Wormgate. The additional cameras will support our ongoing work to assist in preventing and detecting crime, whilst reassuring our communities about community safety. Then we'll have 2 interactive engagement boards, which will be installed in the Marketplace and Central Park, providing safety messages and key information to our communities throughout the year. A capital fund of just shy of £18,000 will also be made available to improve the landscape and environment of our town centre. New planters, new pieces of artwork and structures are some of the examples we will continue to see coming forward this year. With regards to projects associated with the revenue element of this funding, it's proposed that we have 2 community wardens working alongside our community safety team and the wider multi-agency team, and they will cover identified hotspot areas during the evenings and weekends, providing reassurance to our residents and businesses. And in addition to that, we will employ a community ambassador to join our community leadership team to work in communities, building on existing relationships, creating new connections and supporting community cohesion. I therefore propose that the Cabinet approve the recommendations as set out in the report. I'll look for a seconder and happy to take any comments. Seconded by Councillor Broughton, and happy to take any questions. Were you seconding or right? You both seconding, both got questions. So I'll go with you first, Councillor Criswell. Emma.
Okay, when I first heard about this, I was delighted because as obviously councillor and I represent Trinity, which will cover all of this will cover a huge amount of my ward, which is fantastic. And actually it's fantastic for those residents to have all of this available, but it's also really, really positive for our visitors. I love the idea of having new people to support the community team. I think that will help with the cohesion across, again, residents and visitors who are in the town centre. So I fully supported, and I'm delighted that we've got this funding available to us for these things. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Criswell. I guess you were too young to remember the Town Rangers, Emma. We're, I'm kidding. It's only last week. No, we used to have 2 Town Rangers as part of our local business improvement district, our local bid. And they were hugely popular. Our residents really valued having them in the town centre as they were out and about during the evenings and weekends especially. So I think I see this as a kind of replacement for those town rangers, whether we call them community wardens, town rangers, support workers. It matters not a jot really. What matters is what they do, how visible they are, how appreciated they are by the local community, and the impact that they have on community safety. After all, we campaigned on improving community safety and antisocial behaviour, and this is one way we can deliver on that promise. Thank you. Dale.
As a town centre portfolio holder, I'm absolutely delighted with this large external funding of £305,881 being achieved. And again, I would like to sincerely thank Emily Spicer, Peter Hunn and the teams, and also Inspector Clarks and the Lincolnshire Police for their hard work and close working relationship in securing 5 out of the 6 funds to bid on, which is marvellous. And I look forward to this relationship continuing to flourish with Lincolnshire Police. With 1,029 responses to the consultation and 62% responding having concerns of antisocial behaviour and knife crime, the funding will be instrumental in bringing confidence back to our residents, especially with the added CCTV and the 2 community wardens, something I know residents have wanted for a long, long time. And also with the addition of a community ambassador, this could bring our wide-ranging communities together and push our town forward in the right direction, both now and in the future, and I 100% fully support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Broughton. Yes, thank you for picking up on the partnership working there. I endorse your comments for the work from Emily and the work done alongside Inspector Colin Clarkson. I think the partnership between the Borough Council and the police is second to none, really. It's rooted in a very deep respect for each other's role in our community and the success at which we deliver our respective aims and objectives. I am delighted that Emily worked so hard on the bid, and thank you again for that, Emily. This is a significant amount of funding, as you say. We're using it, I think, very creatively. I know that we've workshopped the ideas and we've fleshed them out, and we've all had a say in it. We're certainly not a cabinet that sits back in our laurels and then asks officers to bring us a piece of paper to sign. I think we work very well with our officers in sharing ideas, accepting good advice and moving forward together. So I'm really excited, as you are, Councillor Broughton, because I think this also dovetails beautifully into the town centre strategy and complements it in a fantastic way. So thank you for that. Councillor Baxter, John.
Yeah, I agree with everybody's comments. I've been really impressed recently. I've attended presentations with Colin Clarkson and the police, and I think it's fantastic that all these concepts and through Operation Plot-in and Ideal Partnership. I would just mention something though. Obviously, we're talking about Boston and hotspots. These have been identified. Something that us in rural areas, for example, our ward Old Leek and Wrangle hasn't got a PCSO. So the police have explained that and our provisions and everything. But can I just ask to hold in the background the fact that maybe, I know there's hotspots in the town, and I agree with the things that have been said, but maybe in the background to keep an eye on things out in rural areas. So I'll just mention that. Thank you.
No, I think it's a point well made, Councillor Baxter, and I'm very cognizant of the fact that you and Councillor Butler are doing some excellent work with your young people in Old Leek, and that you've shared with me the concerns of your residents at the loss of your PCSO. Interestingly, I was reading the departing comments of our Chief Constable, Chris Harworth, only this morning, and in the article he stated that his biggest regret was having to make 45 PCSOs redundant, and it seemed very heartfelt, and he's a victim of the very unfair funding that Lincolnshire Police receive. And I think that I accept what you say. In the background, whilst we get this project up and running, we must, as a parallel objective, start to look and cast our net wider around the villages, and see what we can do, what partners we can work with, what funding we might be able to attract to address the issues in the villages. We definitely will not leave those behind. Thank you for that. Councillor Butler, Callum, then Sarah.
I just want to raise a point really regarding the CCTV cameras. Obviously, we're getting 5 new cameras, which is fantastic. I know the people of Boston will be over the moon to hear that. But we're not just stopping at that. We're going to continue to work to try and get even more, aren't we? So, yeah, I just want to raise that.
Yes, absolutely. And I know you go to bed at night dreaming of mobile CCTV cameras. So that you can catch those pesky fly tippers. Yes, I do know that, Callum. This funding was specifically for the town centre, and as we know, we don't get a lot of fly tipping in the town centre because it's already quite well covered by people moving about, street lighting, the cameras that are already there, etc. So no, I share your vision. I really would like to see us get some mobile cameras out and about at the fly tipping hotspots so we can prosecute those people that are blighting our communities. Thank you for that. Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Absolutely delighted with this funding, although I'm a little bit scared because I do remember the wardens, the town centre rangers, so a bit older than I thought, but maybe it's because my cousin was one, so that's what it is. But no, hopefully with them covering the evenings and the weekends, that might be a boost to our nighttime economy. People might think, actually, I feel a bit safer to come out now, and hopefully that'll be a boost to our businesses. So thrilled with that. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with that entirely, because this is about community safety after all. We want people to to feel safe. It works hand in glove with the Safer Streets initiative, so that people can actually see where there are cameras, so they can plot safe routes. Some people think, oh, you shouldn't have to do that, but I'm afraid that's the world we live in. And I'm always very conscious of my own safety when I'm out in the dark. So yes, I know that again, the nighttime economy is part of Dale's town centre strategy. So we're hoping that all of this will come together to make a big improvement in our town centre. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, well with that, we'll go to the vote then. All those in favour? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much. And with that, I will close the meeting. We've concluded our business, and I'd like to thank you all for your